Grilling the Clintons. Former President Bill Clinton is in the hot seat today, just one day after his wife Hillary's deposition to the House Oversight Committee about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I will tell you everything we know about these historic interviews. Plus, Kansas is cracking down on transgender driver's licenses, requiring documents to match driver's sex at birth, and there is no wiggle room here. Those stories and more today, February 27th. I'm Lydia Moynihan in for Caitlin Becker, and this is the New York Postcast. The FBI fired 10 agents and analysts involved with the classified documents prosecution of President Trump under former special counsel Jack Smith. FBI Director Kash Patel said agents purposely tried to evade oversight and added, quote, "It is outrageous and deeply alarming that the previous FBI leadership secretly subpoenaed my own phone records, along with those of now White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles." Earlier this week, the Post reported the DOJ subpoenaed the phone records of Patel and Wiles as part of a, quote, massive targeting operation undertaken by the Biden administration back in 2022 and 2023 as Trump's presidential campaign was heating up. The firing of those 10 agents involved was blasted by the FBI Agents Association, who claim the action violates the due process rights of the agents and weakens the FBI. An FBI official told the Post the subpoenas were discovered in files labeled prohibited, similar to those Arctic frost disclosures from the same investigation found in burn bags at FBI headquarters last year. Transgender drivers in Kansas will have their licenses invalidated under a new law that went into effect Thursday. The new rule, passed by the state legislature's Republican supermajority, overriding a veto from the state's Democratic governor, requires the gender identification listed on licenses to be the same as the sex drivers were assigned at birth. About 1,700 drivers were mailed a notice to change their gender and were told there was no grace period to do so. The notice said, quote, "That means that once the law is officially enacted, your current credentials will be invalid immediately, and you may be subject to additional penalties if you are operating a vehicle without a valid credential." This is the latest law aimed at transgender Kansans. Other measures have focused on restricting which bathrooms, locker rooms, and single-sex facilities transgender people can use. U.S. military buildup continues in the Middle East, even as talks to avoid a war with Iran progress. The latest rounds of negotiations in Geneva on Thursday were moderated by Oman's foreign minister, who, after the talks, posted on X that, quote, significant progress was made and that discussions would resume Monday in Vienna. But the reaction from Iran's foreign minister cast a bit of doubt on what significant progress actually means. He said the discussions were, quote, one of our most intense and longest rounds of negotiations, and added that Iran clearly laid out what needs to happen to move forward, whatever that means. But the biggest head scratcher in the whole thing is that as of this recording, the White House has not commented on the talks at all. Axios reported that negotiators Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner left a morning session, quote, disappointed, but later thought the day's works was, quote, positive. Secretary Marco Rubio is reportedly traveling to Israel this weekend to brief Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on the talks. President Bill Clinton is scheduled to give a deposition to the House Oversight Committee regarding his relationship with dead pedophile Jeffrey Epstein today. On Thursday, his wife, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, gave a 6-hour deposition from an office in Chappaqua, New York, where the Clintons live. Ahead of this deposition, Mrs. Clinton slammed the committee, calling the whole thing, quote, partisan political theater. The interview was recorded and is expected to be released in full sometime soon. The proceedings were halted partway through after Congresswoman Lauren Boebert snapped a picture and sent it to conservative pundit Benny Johnson, who quickly posted it on X. Clinton's teams actually wanted the press in this deposition, but the committee denied that request and then set rules against taking photos or video, a rule that Congresswoman Boebert seems to have violated. After a brief pause, the whole thing did get back on track. So what exactly went down during it all? DC Bureau Chief Josh Christensen has been covering all of this closely for us, and he joins us now. Josh, let's start with what we actually know about the deposition, what was discussed, and what Clinton said.
Well, we know that members of both parties were pretty interested in having this because we know that the Republicans and Democrats both voted to subpoena the Clintons. Both of these members of the oversight panel went in with questions that they had about the relationship that Hillary and Bill Clinton had with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. We know that Bill Clinton is going to be deposed on Friday. Hillary Clinton's deposition was Thursday. But the most interesting thing that emerged from it came at the very end of more than 6 hours of the deposition, which is that many of the Republican members were saying when Hillary was responding to a lot of the questions, often she would invoke her husband and say, I don't know about that. You'll have to ask Bill. I don't know about that. You'll have to ask my husband. The oversight chairman, James Comer, said that she used this tactic more than 12 times over the course of the deposition. And so it provides a lot of anticipation for the deposition tomorrow and what sorts of answers they might get about Epstein, about Maxwell, and about the Clinton Global Initiative, which was the main philanthropic arm that brought these two men together back in the early 2000s.
Now, what about former Secretary Clinton? What did she say about the day of questioning?
There was a lot of interactions about some weird topics, I will say, which this former Secretary of State just revealed to reporters when she spoke to them outside this deposition, which was sort of in an unorthodox location. It was held in Chappaqua, New York, at this performing arts center, not on Capitol Hill where most of them take place. And she was sharing all kinds of things about, at the end, she was being asked about unidentified aerial phenomena. She was being asked about what she said was commonly referred to as the Pizzagate conspiracy, this conspiracy that spawned back during her last run for office against Trump, And so she was sort of reflecting on some of the more strange questions she had to field that were not related to the Epstein-Maxwell controversy. But she also talked about how, she had limited interaction with Maxwell. For instance, she talked for the first time about Maxwell appearing at her daughter Chelsea's wedding. But she affirmed many times, in fact, she seemed annoyed how many times she had to affirm it, that she really did not interact with Epstein, that this was something that, her husband a few times through philanthropic work did, but this was not something that was a part of her life or either inside or outside the White House.
Interesting. Josh, thank you so much, my esteemed colleague there in Washington, D.C.
Thanks for having me.
While Meta is still defending itself in that high-profile trial about teen user mental health, the company's platform Instagram has unveiled a new system to help alert parents when their children search for concerning topics on the app. When an underage user repeatedly searches self-harm terms within a short time frame, the company will notify parents about that behavior. These features will be available in the parental supervision tool in the app starting next week. In a blog post announcing the new feature, the company says it will flag, quote, phrases that suggest a teen wants to harm themselves and terms like suicide or self-harm. The parental notification will link to resources that can help the parent or parents deal with this issue. Meta also said they will roll out similar features in their AI experiences if, say, kids use those terms in conversations with chatbots. Part of this summer's huge America 250th celebration will include the burial of a time capsule in Philadelphia with instructions not to open it again for another 250 years until the year 2276. The cylindrical 3-layer pod was designed to keep artifacts safe for the long haul. Those artifacts so far include a coin used in an NFL playoff game coin toss, items from the 2026 Rose Parade, and a handheld American flag. Other items will be finalized in the coming months, representing all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the 5 major inhabited U.S. territories. Each of them will have a 3-foot by 2-foot box to fill in the large weatherproof capsule. Then, on July 4th, the 250th birthday itself, the cylinder will be buried on the grounds of Independence Hall, where the Declaration of Independence was signed on that day 250 years ago. Thank you for joining me for some headlines this week. Caitlin will be back on Monday, but before I go, I want to remind you to like and follow the New York Postcast so you don't miss any of the news you need to start your day.